All right, lesson 11C. We're going to do two t-test for two means, but this time we're going to do small dependent samples. Okay, so last time we did independent samples. Now we're going to look at dependent samples. And here's the difference. Okay, dependent samples contain paired data. Okay, so if you remember all the way back to like September, October when we did experimental design, and we talked about matched pairs where we had like two subjects that we were matching together, or we were taking two different results from the same person and matching them together. So here's an example of what that looks like. We have the manufacturer of an appetite suppressant claims that its product, along with exercise and a low-fat diet, leads to an average weight loss of 20 pounds in 4 months. And below are the results from a randomly selected sample of 12 dieters. Okay, so my match, my thing that's going to go together is like this person's weight at the beginning versus their weight after 4 months of taking the supplement. Okay, so they went from 185 to 168. So I have to compare those two together. I'm not just going to compare the average weight at the beginning to the average weight at the end. I want to know how much weight each individual person lost or gained. And then I'm going to compare that average, so the average difference between the two for each subject. So that's the difference there with the independent versus dependent samples. Okay, so here are the steps. All right, should look very familiar to you by now. Write the null and alternative hypothesis, identify the level of significance, which is given to you in the problem. Here's where it's a little bit different. We're going to find the difference for each pair in the data set. Okay, so if I looked at my dieters, I'm going to go through and find the difference. How much weight did person 1 lose? Subject 2, subject 3, subject 4. I'm going to go through and find the difference for each person or subject in my sample. Okay, then we use the graphing calculator just like we've been doing. Here's your steps. Okay, the difference this time is we're going to use list. Okay, so we're going to, before when we picked data, or we picked variable, VAR, and then we typed in stuff. Now we're going to put those differences between each pair in list 1, and then we're going to use the list to do our t-test. Okay, but same things at the end. Decide to reject or fail to reject the null hypothesis based on comparing the p-value to the alpha. Same rules there. P is less than alpha, we reject. And then write a one-sentence conclusion. All right, so here's our final question. At alpha is 0.10, can you support the manufacturer's claim, all right, that there's a 20-pound weight loss? Okay, so null and alternative hypotheses. All right, my null hypothesis, okay, would be that the average difference, okay, the mu d, okay, average difference of weights for each person is 20. So then our alternative hypothesis, we're not testing whether it's less than or greater than. So our alternative hypothesis would just be that it is not equal to 20. If the problem said, can we say that their weight loss is less than or their weight loss is greater than, then we would put that here in our alternative hypothesis. But because it doesn't specify, we just say not equal. All right, now I went through and did all of the differences for you. So where these numbers came from, okay, is by taking their original weight minus their weight after 4 months. So 185 minus 168, that was 17. So subject 1 lost 17 pounds. Subject 2 lost 17 pounds. Okay, so that's all I did is go through each of the pairs and subtract. In future problems, you may have to do this part yourself. So I want you to know where these numbers came from. Okay, these are just original weight minus new weight for each subject. Okay, and so what we're going to do is we're going to go in our calculator and we're going to press menu and stat just like we've been doing. And then we're going to enter those differences into list 1. Okay, so each of these differences for all 12 subjects that took this diet pill, I am going to type in how much weight each of them lost. So hopefully you should have your calculator out and be doing this with me as well. Okay, so there's my 12 subjects. All right, then like we've been doing, test, t-test, and this time we're going to do one sample because we're testing the difference. Okay, so one sample, and I make sure it says list. Okay, for mu, this part is where we pick the not equal, less than, or greater than. This is where you put in whatever your alternative hypothesis is. So for this, our alternative hypothesis is not equal, so I'm going to leave it right it is. All right, mu null or 0, all right, that's where we put in what number we have here. So what do we think the mean difference is? We think it's 20, so that number goes there. We typed our stuff into list 1, okay, and then you'll see what looks familiar. There's our p-value, 4.9123e -4. Remember, that means that it's scientific notation, so I would move this decimal 4 places to the left, and so my p-value here would be 0.00049. Okay, that is my alpha was 0.10. This is less than 0.10, so I would reject the null hypothesis. Okay, and that would mean that the average weight loss was not 20 pounds. Okay, so again, very similar to what we've been doing, except this time we need to type those differences into the list and then form our conclusions the same way. All right, and that's it for 11C.